Hello, my name's Karen and I am the founder and director of Creative Paths. I've put together this short video today to give you some ideas for your care settings and ways that you can embed art, culture and creativity in your care home. So a little bit about myself. I'm a care professional, an artist and a teacher. And these are the three sorts of skill sets that led me to create Creative Paths. I've worked in care for most of my working life. I've worked in many aspects of care. I've been a care assistant, an activity coordinator. I've been a day service manager. I've been a regional day service manager, and I've worked at senior care levels as well. In addition to this, I'm an artist, so I have an arts degree. And although I don't do a great deal of work myself, I've always worked as an arts facilitator. So I've always provided arts classes and workshops for people across all walks of life, but predominantly with people with health and social care needs. And finally, I'm a teacher. So I've worked in FE as a health and social care teacher and tutor up to level 3, and I've also provided training in areas such as creative reminiscence and creativity in care settings. So that's a little bit about my background. So today we're going to have a little chat and we're going to talk about what Creative Paths does, why creativity counts, because it's important, and some tips and suggestions using your local resources, some things to consider, and some common questions that you might have. So Creative Paths is proud to be a not-for-profit. We provide creative and reminiscence activities for people living in care settings, and we do this in a number of ways. We do distance online resources and publications and Zoom workshops. So these are two sort of fairly new services that we've been doing over the pandemic period. And this is because we wanted to make sure that we were still providing our services to the people that needed them. We do creative and reminiscence workshops, and these are face-to-face in care homes. And we've only just started doing this again, which is great. So it's so lovely to be back into care settings. We sometimes get funding for arts projects. So, for example, from organisations and grant funders such as the Arts Council, Charities Aid Foundation and the National Lottery. We do training and consultations, and we are commissioned providers for discrete learning for people living in care. And we do that through Inspire, Nottingham County Council's Community Learning Department. And we provide courses in things such as creative reminiscence, watercolours for wellbeing and sensory seasons. So we do a lot of things, but the main sort of gist of what we do is getting good creative activity to people living in care. So I'm just going to show you our website because we do have some really nice resources that might be helpful for you. So I'll just click on that. So the first thing I'm going to look at is some project pages. So these are projects that we did over the pandemic period. The first project that we did was called From a Distance. And within that, we did a project called Memorial, Healing and Hope and Mischief and Magic. So rather than talk at length about what these particular projects did, I just really wanted to show you some of the resources. So for the Memorial, Healing and Hope, we have a really nice leisure reminiscence resource, and we have a poetry book that was written with the residents that partook in the project and poet Letitia Tunbridge, who facilitated that aspect of the project. We've also got another project called Mischief and Magic, which was based on Shakespeare's play Midsummer Night's Dream. We've got a lovely video to give you some ideas of some of the work that we did, Facebook page and mass pack, and also downloads. Now I'll show you the downloads because you can actually deliver this project yourself with these download packs. So there's 4 packs, and within each pack there's activities for you to do with your residents. So creative activities, discussion activities, reminiscence activities. Our next project that we did was called Tall Tales. And this again was a distance project, and we wanted something that was light-hearted. So we chose the fun theme of myths and legends. So the 6 sort of myths and legends that we explored were the Cottingley Fairies, the Legend of King Arthur, the Wise Men of Gotham, the Green Children of Woolpit, Mysterious Monsters, and the Great Moon Hoax. So, I mean, I'll just quickly click on one of these links so you can have a look. I won't go through the whole programme for you, but I'll just get that open for you. So within these resources, we actually do have an e-learning resource. So Creative Paths presents Tall Tales online. Welcome to session 1 of our Look at the Picture Clues. Is it? So I won't go completely through that whole resource for you, but I would seriously recommend that you do spend a little bit of time having a look at these, because they are quite good fun, and it does mean that you can sort of deliver sessions yourself without having to have a facilitator come in and do this kind of work with you. In addition to the e-learning resources, we also have these workbooks that support the session. So they've got creative activities, questions, some gapped handouts so people can write notes and things in. So that's a really nice project that we carried out actually ourselves in 12 care homes. But as a legacy of that project, we wanted to, you know, have these resources so that it'd be wider available to other homes. And the final project I wanted to show you was our Common Ground project. And this was funded by the National Lottery Fund, and the idea behind it is we wanted to use the stories of people from local areas such as Nottingham, Sheffield, Lincoln, Leicester and Derby, and their stories and memories would inform reminiscence packs. Currently at the moment we've got 3 of the packs on our download. So we've got Nottingham, Lincoln and Derby, and we've also got some Common Ground themes and prompts, which is a reminiscence activity that you can use. I would say that although these packs are kind of relevant to the particular area, there is things within them that can be used in care settings in any area of the country. So they are common themes, a common ground, if that makes sense. I'll just go back on here, and we've also got this nice little video that you can play that's got a kind of, it's like a photo story of pictures that we took at the Lincolnshire County Museum, which has got some lovely sort of old artifacts and reminiscence objects. So that's a good resource as well. Apart from our resources, I'll just which are all on our download page, I'll just quickly show you this as well. We have got this Creative Communities resource that we did with Arts and Care Homes last year. Again, you know, you've got some really nice creative activities in there to give you some ideas. So apart from our resources, we also, well, I also do a blog. I'm not a regular blog writer, but, you know, I do these sort of, when I get an idea and I think, well, that would make a nice blog. So these are current blogs. There's one on enriching your residents' experience and curiosity. There's some goal setting, which can be obviously used at any time, and there's a blog about creature comforts. It was actually written last autumn, but is obviously relevant every autumn. So that's a blog. So I would also keep an eye on that from our website. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I want to show you. I think that's about it. So within resources, you've got your downloads. In your projects, you've got the various projects we've got. As I say, most projects do have other resources attached to them. You can go on to contact and join our mailing list as well. So, you know, if you want to kind of keep up to date with, you know, the kind of things that we're doing in the future. So that's our website. I'll get us back to the presentation and we'll move on. Right, so so why do we do what we do? You know, I mean, that's always the question, isn't it? Why is it important? Why is this work important? Well, creativity really counts, and some of the outcomes, and these are by no means all of the outcomes, that people or participants that you know, use creative activities or join in arts-based activity, is the main thing is it's an excuse to get around the table and have a conversation. So it increases social engagement, and often within care settings, you know, there isn't a lot of opportunities for conversation and discussion and people getting together. And obviously that has been made particularly more difficult over the past 18 months. So, you know, anything that can increase social engagement is going to increase well-being for your residents. It provides them also with a means of self-expression. So, you know, you can express yourself through art, you can express emotions, the way you're feeling, ideas, your imagination. So that's really important that we all have the opportunity to self-express. It also gives people opportunities to feel heard. A lot of the sessions that we do, although they are creative sessions, they always have opportunities for discussion. And so, you know, people talk and they ask questions and we ask them questions. So, you know, it gives people an opportunity to feel heard and listened to. Again, something that can sometimes get a little bit lost when somebody moves into a care setting. It can gain, people can gain a sense of achievement, contribution. It's really important that we all feel that we're contributing, and that we're not just receiving all the time. We're not receiving services. And when we have illness or receipt of health and social care, sometimes it can feel that's what's happening in our lives, that we're always taking. So any opportunity to achieve, to contribute, is going to have a good outcome for a person. Other benefits would be increased physical activity. Even just sort of walking from the lounge chair to the activity table is exercise. I mean, obviously there are benefits from moving hands, dexterity, hand-eye coordination. So there's all these physical benefits, you know, when anyone partakes in a creative activity. And the other thing is, you know, a lot of people find that when they're immersed in creativity or art, that they are distracted and it relaxes them. So, you know, often people can have worries in their life, or it can take them sort of away from the sort of everyday humdrum, and also provide them with sort of stimulation. Other things I've got down here is increased focus. You know, it's often people will, particularly people with dementia, you might get somebody that's often on the go or likes to have a wander, you know, providing them with activity and sort of small bites can give them an opportunity to focus for a little bit for a short period of time, which is always good, and you can increase that focus over time. So that is why you know, creativity counts. As I say, these are just some outcomes. So these are some tips and suggestions for things that we do when we provide sessions and things that we consider. We do like a theme. We find that a theme is a good focus for something, and we can build a lot of activity around a theme. So they are a very successful tool for generating ideas for creative activities. We like to use a multisensory approach. So this provides greater access and engagement. So, you know, your residents have lots of different needs, lots of different physical needs, lots of different emotional needs. We find the more kind of resources and different sort of aspects of your session that you can provide means that more people will be able to engage. And also, you know, consider the full home environment. You know, your activities shouldn't just be based to a session once a week or a couple of sessions. You know, think about the care home environment. Is it a creative environment? How can you make your care home an inspiring space to create in? What can you do? So I want to look at themes. Now, this is a model that we did a couple of years ago for some training, and it was just to sort of show how we come up with a session. So we choose a theme for a session. We often have a song attached to it. We do a starter and energizer. We think about what visual resources that we'll have, what questions we're going to ask. We always sort of put a creative activity in, but we also think about at the end of the activity, what are the outcomes? How are we going to record its activity and its success? You know, what have we got to show for the activity that we've done? Have we taken any photographs? Have we made any plans for future activities? And this is a little bit of a boring infographic, so I'm just going to show you a better example of it. So for example, for a theme idea of a tropical holiday, you know, a starter song and music might be listening to some ukulele music or listening to some music from Blue Hawaii, or, you know, a similar film about the tropics. Next, we have an energizer. So an energizer is really important. You have everybody sat around the table. You know, how do we get everyone engaged? How do we just kind of create this kind of group feel to the session? So you can do name games. You can do balloon games where you're sort of patting a balloon around. For something like a tropical holiday, you might have a beach ball, a very light beach ball that you could use. But anything that kind of gets people sort of energized and, you know, looking forward to getting involved. The next thing is think about your resources. So, you know, we use lots of resources in our session. So, you know, for something like a Hawaiian or a tropical session, we might bring in some tropical fruit. We'll bring in pictures of, you know, tropical islands, pictures of people that live in those areas. We might bring in things to touch, objects associated with it, holiday snaps, you know, so anything that's going to kind of generate discussion and get people interested. Also always sort of have questions set aside that you can ask people, because away, you know, one of the nice things, and I will talk about this again a bit later on, is if you can kind of draw people in through, you know, asking a question, like maybe playing a piece of music. You know, does anybody recognize this music? You know, so for example, I've got a picture of Elvis here from Blue Hawaii. But as I say, be mindful that your questions aren't too challenging, and that they are, you know, they're appropriate to the needs of the residents that you're providing the session for. So obviously we have a creative activity as well. So this lady, she made a Hawaiian lei out of some silk flowers. You can see there actually on the table in front of her, there's a really sort of cheery tablecloth with kind of tropical prints, coral on it, and also some shells. And she's got some what looks like cocktail umbrellas in her hair. And finally, we have our outcomes. So a way of recording outcomes. It's often nice to take photographs in sessions if you've got permissions, because these can be framed and they can actually add to the creative environment of the home. So this is our little planning tool in action. The next thing I wanted to look at was the multisensory approach. So this just kind of gives an example of how you can pick a theme. So for this theme, it's lavender, which is quite an easy theme to sort of use a multisensory approach with. And we've got lavender oil to smell, or you can maybe have lavender bags if you don't want to use the oils. Lavenders to touch, you could perhaps bring in a lavender plant. This is a lovely song, Lavender Blue. So, you know, maybe sort of inviting everyone to sing that along with you. We can often find now lavender in a lot of food products, so you can actually get lavender flavouring. So you could have something that's got a little bit of lavender flavouring in it. And also lots of visual things to look at, lots of pictures of lavender fields, you know, sort of maybe some artist representations of lavender. I'll just click on here to show you. We've got this Pinterest account where we've done this as a session. So we put together lots of inspiration on this. So you can have a look at that, how we would actually plan a session. So we get an idea. So the idea is lavender, and then we start kind of populating these sort of mood boards with things that we could perhaps do in the session. So you've got lavender soap. So I mean, just one simple thing, you know, this idea of lavender, there's so much that can be kind of taken from that in terms of ideas for activities. You can also follow our page, Creative Paths. We've got lots of other boards and things that we do. So got lots of boards here that you can have a look at for ideas, so that might be useful as well. So we'll just go back to the presentation. Okay, so that's a multisensory approach. And you know, if you have people that have visual impairments or hearing impairments, you know, it means that they are included within that session. You know, there's something for everybody. So the other thing that we spoke about earlier was creative care homes provide opportunities for people to be creative. So, you know, I've got here, creative care homes celebrate life. So, you know, how can you make your care home a creative environment? So, you know, good displays. You know, this is around remembrance. So, you know, if you're doing a session on remembrance, you could make some examples yourself. You can start kind of creating a buzz and excitement about the activities that you're doing, you know, so you've got a board of what's coming up and you can perhaps have pictures and things. Again, you know, photographs of your residents and the things that they've made. This all kind of sort of gets people stimulated, and it also stimulates the staff as well. You know, it's nice to have a care home where, you know, you can see that life is celebrated through creativity. So the next thing I want to look at is using your local resources. So often, you know, within care settings, there might not be a huge budget for creative activities or any activities. So it's looking to the organisations in your area that could perhaps provide a little bit of support in terms of resources or maybe workshops. So I've just done a quick list here of some of the things to maybe investigate. Now, I'll be honest with you, you know, sometimes it can be very difficult finding the right person within an organisation that will help you. And you do have to be quite tenacious with this. So you do have to perhaps, maybe if you ring somebody, you might have to ring back a couple of times just to kind of get to the right person. But certainly organisations like museums and heritage library services, theatres and arts organisations, they do tend to have people within their organisation, like a participation officer or community development officer, that might be able to talk to you about how they can provide something for your care home. So it might be in terms of resources, it might be in terms of a visit, or they might be able to bring objects into your into your home. So it's always worth just seeing what's happening locally. Often museums and heritage have loan boxes, reminiscence boxes, things that you can borrow, reminiscence resources. This tends to be a very sort of popular thing for them to do at the moment. The other organisations to look at are universities and colleges, particularly for volunteers. You know, if you've got a university or college that has an arts department, there might be people within that department that are interested in doing art therapy or participatory arts as a career. So it's worth kind of making connections and seeing whether or not there's a way that you could, perhaps your care home could work you know, with students. Also schools and intergenerational projects. A lot of care homes recently have made really good connections with their local schools. So that is another one to explore. And also each sort of town and city does have its festivals and events, and how do you make sure that your residents don't miss out on those experiences? So for example, in Nottingham, we have Nottingham Pride, we have Nottingham Mila, we have Riverside Festival, we have Goose Fair, we have lots of things happening every year that, you know, could be a potential for really great creative activities for residents of care homes that live in Nottingham. Faith centres, again, are really good organisations to get in contact with. And, you know, it could be that they can provide faith activities, but also, you know, they are a good resource for volunteers and people in the community that are looking for ways that they can help out. So it is always worth getting in contact with faith centres. And finally, volunteers infrastructure organisations. So these are organisations that work with smaller organisations in your area. So there might be charities or small community groups that are doing things already, and it's just about finding out how, you know, what they do and whether they could be of benefit to your residents. So there might be, for example, an organisation like Creative Paths in your area that you don't know about, and we provide lots of creative activity opportunities for free. So, you know, it's always worth knowing what's out there and making sure that they are utilised. And also, you know, talk to people. You know, the biggest resource is people, isn't it? And, you know, there might be people in your staff teams, there might be people in your families. So, you know, make sure that you're kind of networking and getting, you know, getting the best opportunity for your residents. So that's something around resources. We've talked a little bit about how you can do some planning and come up with some ideas, and just some things to consider, really. So I think it's important to really think about how many people you have within a room doing an activity. And, you know, often we'll have a nice activity and we want to get as many people, you know, joined in and doing that activity because we don't want them to miss out. But it's really important that we don't have too many people at the table, because then that activity becomes diluted. So, you know, just make sure that maybe, I would say a maximum, if it's just one person delivering that activity, I would say maybe a maximum of 6 people. And that way everyone around that table is going to get good engagement and your attention. So quality over quantity. And I know that's hard. I know that's hard because, you know, a lot of activity coordinators work part-time, or, you know, you have care homes with a lot of residents and you want to meet their needs. But, you know, it is about kind of perhaps sort of talking to your manager about that as a point in your supervisions and, you know, your meetings, that, you know, you want opportunities to do quality group work with your residents. The other thing is the activity environment. So, you know, I've been in sessions before where I've been delivering reminiscence work and somebody started hoovering around me, or, you know, there's been somebody loudly handing out tea and biscuits. And I tend to find that when delivering, particularly when delivering things to people with dementia, you know, it's really important to keep people's focus, because it can, once that focus is gone, it can actually sort of break the magic of the session. So if you can get somewhere that's spacious, quiet, airy, you know, no one's going to come in and sort of bother you, you'll get better engagement and more successful outcomes from your session. And I know, again, that's not always important. Not everybody does have designated activity environments, but again, it's perhaps having a chat with your manager, chat with other care staff, you know, how can they sort of value doing, you know, what you're doing, and, you know, not sort of, you know, disrupt it unnecessarily. So just for them to be mindful that you're doing something that requires your residents to be able to hear you and for you to hear them, you know, as a starter. And the next thing is seating arrangements. So, you know, consider where people are seating for the best engagement and also exit access. Sometimes what happens, particularly in smaller spaces, is people that use wheelchairs are brought in first, so they're at the back of the room, and then people who are walking are brought in later on. And then if the person in the wheelchair wants to go to the toilet or wants to leave the session, then everybody's got to move back and out the way. So just think about, you know, where people are sitting, so that everyone, you know, you're not disrupting your session by having to move everybody just because one person needs to leave the session. So, you know, just think about your space. I think that's a really important thing to consider. Also, you know, making sure that people are sat near to the table and not too far away. Sometimes people are, you know, there's a big gap between them and the table where they're working, and you know, it makes it difficult for them to reach what they're doing, but also it can make it very uncomfortable if they're kind of bent forward, leaning forward, and they're not able to reach properly. Some other things to consider. So direct engagement, make sure you engage individuals by name in the activity. That's a really nice way to sort of draw people in. So for example, you know, you might say, oh, Betty, you know, did you ever do this activity before? Or you might say, oh, do you recognize the song? But actually sort of calling people by name, and that makes them feel part of the session. Just making sure that you do that with every single person within that group. The next thing is process over product. Now, this is a very kind of pertinent point within participatory art, so that, you know, obviously the product's nice. It's nice to have a good product at the end of your session, but really it's the process that's important. You know, it's the joining in, it's all those lovely things that lead to the outcomes, like the social engagement, like the getting to move more, getting to feel heard, talking one-to-one, talking in a group. These are all things that are an important focus for the session. You know, there are ways to create nice sort of product outcomes, but I think it's always important that, you know, it's the journey is more important than, you know, the sort of the arrival. And finally, this is a really important one, and it's something, you know, that can ruin creativity for a person, is if you interfere too much. So, you know, I've worked with people who've through their dementia, they've lost their sense of colour. So one man in particular would draw beautiful purple trees, and they were just wonderful, beautifully drawn, but all the leaves are purple. And, you know, often people would remark on this, oh, that's the wrong colour, and that can really sort of take away someone's confidence and their flow. So let people do what they want to do. That's the whole point of creativity. They're using their imagination, they're enjoying it, they're enjoying that process. So it's really important that you allow for self-direction. Now, that's not to say that you don't provide guidance, but guidance could be things like help with materials, it could be making gentle suggestions, but never at any point, you know, do you take over that creative process or actually physically do the activity for that person, unless they specifically need you to, you know, to sort of help them with their work. So those are some things to consider. So really, that's, you know, that's the end of the video. I hope it's been of use. I mean, any sort of questions that people tend to be around things like, you know, we don't have any money. How can we afford to do sort of activities like this within our care home? Again, I would sort of go back to this idea of resources. You know, check out your local resources. There are often scrap stores as well that can be good for finding materials. You could perhaps, you know, do some fundraising activities that could, you know, add to your activity pot. So, and as I said before, you know, there might be things out there that are free that you just don't know about. And I think really for you as an activity coordinator, you know, you've really got to sell your case for the importance of the activity for your residents and their value. And that's to, you know, to the care staff that you work with and to the care management as well. You know, because it's not a nice topping to what happens within the care home in the day. It is actually crucial that, you know, people living in care do get access to creative and artistic opportunities. You know, it's part of life. So if you do have any sort of further questions, we do provide consultancies and training, and you know, please have a look at our website, contact us if you'd like to sort of you know, have any more kind of information about what we do. Thank you very much.